Hello everybody, this is Sab here, Sab in Paris, for another funky edition of the creative blog and article writing show. And I've got my mug so that I can chink it and let you know that I'm here. I've got me, so you can know that I'm here as well. Wearing the same pullover as usual for Despina. I know that she likes to check on my clothing choices. And what else can I tell you? Well, this is the awkward bit. I've realised this is the awkward bit when no one is watching. So all my introduction just disappears into the ether. I now have one person watching. Hello, one person. Tell me who you are, and if I think you deserve it, I'll do my entire introduction again. Otherwise, I'll just sort of carry on as usual. So yeah, say hello in the chat if you're joining. And yeah, this is the rather relaxed creative blog and article writing show where I talk about words till the cows come home, and possibly even longer if you can't stop me. And I've got a few things to show you today. I've got my usual stuff that I've written. You know, I write every day. I encourage you to do so as well, and I will show you some of those if you show me some of yours. And you have been showing me some of yours. I'm very excited. This is the week, I would say, that I've actually had some people contributing to the group, and it's a very beautiful thing. I've got Dorothy. Hello, Dorothy. It's you and me, babe, for the moment. You and me, talking about words. Dorothy, you're one of the people who has contributed. Thank you. We've got somebody else coming on, and so let's dive into it. I'm not sure if I need to say anything else for the replay people. Excuse me. If there's a replay. If you're a replay person, then hello and welcome. I'm desperately trying to find something. Yeah, so the idea of this is the blog, the creative blog and article writing group, which is this. And I do have to change the banner so that it shows all of those words. This is a place for people to contribute their writing. Not to get published, to publish books, not to become great novelists and so on. It's more a place to share your creative writing. And wherever you want to make that, wherever you want to publish it, that's up to you. But we share, we appreciate, and it's possible that we can give some advice. I'm personally well, I write a lot. I write every day. That's my claim to fame. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to make excuses or say I've done this but I haven't done that. It's pointless. I say to you, write. If you write, you're a writer. That's all there is to it. And I don't think we need to go any further, because, you know, it gets a bit silly. Like people saying, you know, I'm a Sunday Times best-selling author, or I'm an Amazon best-selling author, and you see where they've been in the Amazon charts and it's some obscure category of, you know, about 2 books in there or something. I am just for letting people write. Write, get it out there. It's a wonderful thing to do. We can publish our stuff immediately on the internet today and feel a lot better for it. So I've got words to share with you. And Despina is here. Hello, Despina. I think you probably missed it, but I gave you an update. I decided to wear the same one again, especially for you, just so that you don't feel sort of perturbed or, you know, a bit. There's a word for it, and I can't think of it. So I'm going to start with something from this. Now, people have been starting to contribute, which is a really wonderful thing. So I'm kind of going to randomly go to this and see what happens. So I just put this up, love words, me too. And so I'm going to try and get more and more people to join us and see what happens. Now I had 𝗤𝗏𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗏𝗘, or Teeny, as she gets called apparently. I like calling her TC, Top Cat. But Teeny or 𝗤𝗏𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗏𝗘, she saw this theme. Nobody contributed to the theme. Nobody knew about it, I guess. And she said, I missed this. I'll make this bigger. She said, I missed this. Well, a lot of my stories contain water. Take my story, The Lady by the River, for instance. I don't know your story, Lady by the River, for instance. So maybe, she said, I think it would be too long to share here. What do you think? Well, I was thinking about this today because we had Despina contributed links to longer articles, and Asli from Turkey contributed a long text, which we'll look at in a minute, but she writes stories as well. So how should you contribute to this group? I'm looking for bite-sized pieces. I think bite-sized pieces would be the best, where there's enough to post in the group to absorb, include a comment, maybe a question, so that we can talk about it without needing to go somewhere else. But for the whole article, put a link at the bottom. Put a link at the bottom, but give us enough to have a little conversation in the group without needing to go somewhere else. And if we like it enough and there's more, then we can follow the link, and that's absolutely fine. So it depends how long it is, 𝗤𝗏𝗘𝗧. You know, I mean, if it's like 3,000 words, no, probably not, because people wouldn't read it. You know, it'd be too long. Give us a taster. Give us the first paragraph, the name, the first paragraph, and maybe a picture from the cover, and that'd be fantastic. You know, give us a snippet. If it's a poem, not too long, then post the whole poem. So I'm intrigued. The Lady by the River. I'd love to know what that's about. Astley, I'm going to look at Astley's in a minute, because I'll tell you why. She contributed this. I'm not going to read it, but it's wonderful because I dipped into it, and I'm going to read it all later. Astley is a wonderful authoress. To be honest, I don't really know her books, from Turkey, lovely lady, and she's contributed a wonderful text. I think it's about the writing and about the book. So I'll read the first bit and then I'll come back to it. She says, "This is the cover of my debut novel from 6 years ago, the first book I've written after finally having the courage," make it a little bit bigger, "having the courage to quit my corporate job." And that's a biggie. This book itself is a tale of my life on its own, besides the tale that's written inside it. Every creation is a mirror of its creator ultimately. That's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, and I think so. I think so. It's like photography. You take a photograph, you look at somebody's photograph, you're looking at what they decided to show you. So it's not impersonal. It's very personal, in fact, and words are exactly the same. What about a poem? I mean, that's highly personal, isn't it? I think in films, actors, I often think, okay, an actor can play a baddie because we don't really think that they're a baddie. We think they're just an actor pretending to be a bad guy or gal. But with a poem, how many poems are really nasty? I mean, like you've got actors in films who kill people, rape people, are just horrible, horrible human beings. They might be redeemed at the end, but not always. They often just get killed. But can you imagine a poet taking the voice of that horrible, horrible human being and not letting on, not pretending that isn't them? Because we automatically assume that the poet is very much in the poem. Whereas you can get away with, in novels, you can get away with having a really nasty character, even though you wrote it. So you must share some of those characteristics to be able to write about it. But, you know, you can pretend to an extent, but we still don't think that the author is necessarily a baddie. Whereas in poetry, you know, we think it's you. We think you're telling us about you. And it's very difficult to escape that. So she says, my story goes like this, but I'm going to skip that. I'm going to move on to something else, and I'm going to come back to that and dip in, because I don't know how long that would take me. So I want to have a bit more variety to keep going. All right, so I've got there's nice comments on that though, Ashley. Thanks for sharing. Dorothy. So Dorothy's writing blog number 29. No, sorry, blog on the 29th of November, 2020. Dorothy, you're getting very much into playing with words. It's lovely to see. Despina says, I have read the half of her book. Which half? It's wonderful. You should buy it. I've read the half of her book. I'm intrigued why you only read half of it, or am I missing something here? I'm going to read this from Dorothy and just go with the flow. Dorothy has a wonderful imagination, poetic way of expressing herself. English isn't her first language. And look at the effect that this has. And I'm reading it properly for the first time. So let's go with this. And let's look at the photograph as well, because the photograph, Dorothy really combines things. I was just going to read what she says about the photograph first. The picture shows a reflection of the moon in a puddle on the terrace rail yesterday. So there's a very abstracty sort of picture. And then she says, waking up from a dream today, almost awake, a bell rings, a doorbell, not my bell. I heard it before. Who is ringing on the door? 6 a.m, still dark. I'm wondering if I dare. Dare to look out there. Dare to open the door. When I bravely opened the door, I met the stars. No clouds, no wind, no moon, just stars. The morning star Venus is rising in the east. Sirius is blinking on the west. And above me, a lot of well-known connecting stars. Charles Wayne, one of these stars used to be my home. Now I'm here alone. You're not alone. We just came by to say hello before the morning rise. We didn't want you to miss this morning sky. It was a beautiful morning sky. Every year, 29th of 11th, I wonder, who was born today? Who have I forgotten? Still, there is an empty space from someone or something forgotten. Today, the bell rang and the stars filled that space. That leaves a warm feeling inside me. I don't even know why. It's just something about the way the words sort of flow together. Not quite sure what's happening, and then there's a word, a line which speaks to me. I love this idea. Today the bell rang and the stars filled that space. The empty space from someone or something forgotten. That's a beautiful poetic image. Thanks for sharing that, and your poetic image that you've shared with us there as well. By the way, do say hello if you haven't, and do contribute. Give me comments on what we're seeing here. That keeps it flowing along nicely. And if you've left it too long to comment, I might be on something else. So if you can just say, I love Despina's image or something like that. Now I'm going to show you some of my stuff. These are the last 6 from the last week, so there's another one somewhere. And I can't remember what I wrote on all of these, so I'm just going to chug down here. A poem for you all. So here's a poem based on this little girl running around the 𝗪𝗓𝗪 columns in the middle of Paris. And I called this Little Red Rascal. Through black on white, like stars at night. How about that? Straight into Stars at Night after Dorothy. What a lovely coincidence. I'm saying that to annoy people who don't believe in coincidences. What a lovely coincidence. Through black on white, like stars at night, the 𝗾𝙧𝗧𝗜𝗍𝗔 crusader. Flashes in red, a comet dread, unstoppable invader. Her mission bold, as tales are told, was thwart the mean tomb raider. But word got out, a sign, a shout, an erstwhile friend betrayed her. Now with the winds she weaves and grins back to the folks who played her. No dragon's sly nor evil eye can catch our cute first grader. Cute first grader is a major concession on my part to the Americans, because I was looking for a rhyme. Because we don't do first grades and second grades and stuff where I come from. We do, I don't know what we do, but anyway, I had to look it up to make sure a first grader was the right sort of age for her. So there you go. A poem popping out. So pleased, lots of poems are popping out recently. And I'll give you another one. Not a poem, another bunch of text. And well, what would you have written based on this photograph? What does this conjure up for you? It's quite an evocative photograph. It's inside a very big church in Paris called l'Église Saint-Eustache. And there's all these empty chairs in the time of COVID. Lovely stained glass window up above with all the religious icons and such like around it, with these big open windows. And luckily there was just someone gazing out there at their life he was waiting for me, I guess, for this photograph, and then he left. So what would you conjure up? What does that bring up? Well, hello. What does this bring up for you? Does it bring up ideas of religion or peace or oppression or loneliness? Because more and more these days, images are the instigators of my words. The words that came up for this, for me, were myriad thoughts and emotions coursing, I never know if it's coursing through me when I enter an imposing Paris church like 𝗬𝙧𝙧𝙯𝙯. An undeniable calm washes over me as I'm bathed in the subdued lighting and respectful whispers of the visitors. Then I admire the murals and statues and posters and flyers and contemplate our inventiveness in the search for ultimate meaning in the random chaos of our lives. Finally, I raise my eyes to the heavens, humbled and struck dumb by the immensity of the place. Which was kind of the idea, of course. Our single-mindedness and ingenuity in creating such a gargantuan structure, centuries before modern devices and materials and techniques, truly is an awe-inspiring achievement. Seems there is a God, after all. So a mixture of thoughts. I started by thinking, I put some questions out there last week, and I want them to be perpetual questions, such as, what comes to, how do you be creative? Where does creativity come from? What's difficult for you in being creative? And one person, I'm not sure if it was Dorothy or not, said something like, I don't really get the question because I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how to be more creative because I don't know where creativity comes from, which was interesting. It might have been Karen. And I have this often when I start my daily texts, or rather before I start them. I've just got the picture, or I've got something in my mind, or I've got nothing in my mind. And I sometimes think, what the hell am I going to write about today? And then this came out, and you can see it was actually me thinking, what does this conjure up in me? This church, this image, and me going into a church. And then it fell out, the article fell out. Let me go back to this again and see what else. Seeing as we've got some people posting, I'm going to honour you guys. This is from Despina. This is a lovely piece. It's very simple. It reminds me of a poem that I wrote. I love these. Oh, this is this weird things. I think they have this in France as well. These kind of dots on a page. I've never got into dots on a page, but it's kind of funny. And these two very simple bird-like forms. It says 29th of the 11th, which could be just a few days ago. How did this come to you, Despina? Did it just fall out of you? Did something make you think of flying and then this came out of you, or what? Let me fly and come to you. I'm not sure what that word is. Let me fly and come to you. Let me pray, I don't know what it is, and open the shades of you. Try, I think it's try. Let me fly and come to you. I had it before and then I lost it. Let me fly and come to you. Let me try and open the shades of you. I am sly and so are you. I can try, compare and contrast, pry. No, it's pry. Oh, this is going well. Let me fly and come to you. Let me pry and open the shades of you. I am sly and so are you. I can try and please you, but I won't try to indulge you. Pry, yeah, I got it. Thanks. Yeah, that's really good. I like it. I mean, good means I just like it. It doesn't mean that it's good or bad. You know what I mean. I love what you're doing there. I love your playing with those words. I'm going to read it again. I don't think I quite got it. I did it justice. Let me fly and come to you. Let me pry and open the shades of you. I am sly and so are you. I can try and please you, but I won't try to indulge you. You could say, I can try to please you, but I won't try to appease you. I really like it. It's really good. Lovely. Simple. Simple and yet lots and lots of lovely language. You know, simplicity is often easily the best, especially in poetry, over complicated stuff. I try to remember that sometimes, and I don't always succeed. I wanted to show you some books that I've got. A whole bunch of books are coming my way. So my little collection is growing. I told you I went crazy on Amazon the other day. So now I'm up to mindful. You'll notice a theme here. Mindful Thoughts for Fathers, a Journey of Loving Kindness. Mindful Thoughts for City Dwellers, the Joy of Urban Living. Mindful Thoughts for Stargazers, Find Your Inner Universe. Another one arrived. Mindful Thoughts for Artists, Finding Flow and Creating Calm. And another one. Mindful Thoughts for Makers, Connecting Head, Heart and Hands. How cool is that? Got a frog in my throat today. Although I couldn't eat a horse, but I do have a frog in my throat. There was a lovely little section that came to me in this one, the artist's one. And I just opened these at random. You see, you open them at random and you read one of the passages. The beauty of the imperfect. How about that? That is, wait for it. The beauty of the imperfect is this, Wabi Sabi. And there's another one as well, another type of that. You see, it's things which are damaged, things which are old, things which are past their prime, are as beautiful, if not more beautiful. So, you know, the beauty of the imperfect. Wonderful. That's great for artists. Anyway, it says beginning and beginning again. And I'm going to read this first little section because there's a metaphor in there that I love. And it says, with every end, story time with Sam. With every end, there is a new beginning. Whether it be starting a new body of work or embracing an art practice for the first time, beginning the creative act is both crucial and at times challenging. Beginnings are brought about by endings. There can be a great deal of time and space between an ending and the beginning that follows. This pause is not like artist's block. It is rather like a clock waiting to be wound. It still works, and its inertness does not lessen its potential ring, but a hand must first choose to wind it before it springs into life. I love that. I wish I'd thought of it. So that's my new favourite metaphor. That our creative potential is like, we're like a clock that is in perfectly good working order. If it's an old-fashioned clock, you have to wind it up. And then, tick, 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 great, it goes again until it eventually slows down and stops. If it's a new clock, well, it needs a battery, doesn't it? You need a battery. It's in perfectly good working order. And yet, without a battery, it's not going to do anything. Put a battery in, bam, off it goes until eventually, slowly, the battery wears out and it stops until the battery is replaced. So the metaphor is us as the clock. When we're trying to create something, trying to create a poem, write a poem or a book or an article or paint something, we're like the clock. At the beginning, we're like the clock that doesn't have a battery, or the battery's run out, or the clock is wound down. We need something to wind us up or to put a new battery in. In other words, we need a creative idea to arrive so that we can, boom, get loads of energy, a fantastic idea, and off we go. And one of the recurring questions is, how do you get that idea? Where does creativity come from? And how can we get that boost? How can we wind ourselves up? Or how can we put our battery, a new battery in so that, whoa, off we go again? And that's a recurring theme. So I just wanted to share that with you. I don't really have any answers as such. It comes down to, where was my, I think, yeah, if you had one, it'd be good if you could see this. if you had one question about being more creative with your writing, what would it be? So I just got a comment from this writing came after watching your live. I was creative, says Despina. Was it the sweater effect? Good, great. So I mean, one way of winding yourself up in the sense of a clock or putting a new battery in is to expose yourself to new ideas or to other ways of looking at things, and that can be the boost. That can be the wind up that gives you lots of energy, new ideas to go forth. So sitting in a vacuum, not exposing yourself to other stuff, isn't really that conducive to being really creative in the long term, I think. It's very often new stuff, new stimuli, which will give me new ideas. In fact, it happens every single day, several times. I get ideas for an article or a piece of something several times a day. Most of them disappear. But it's because of something that's happened in my life. I don't just sit there and they come. It's because of something in everyday life. An event, something I see, a person saying something, something I read. This is what gives me ideas, endless ideas, infinite ideas. Interestingly enough though, where's my mouse gone? A comment to this question was, where does it come from? And I very intelligently said, where does what come from exactly? And Sharon said, writing. I don't understand how I can be more creative with my writing when it just comes out of nowhere, and I don't feel like I'm being creative as it just comes. Yeah, well, I mean, it may be that you don't have a problem with creativity, or you don't feel that there's any problem whatsoever, and that it comes when it wants to come. So, you know, you don't have to invent a problem just so that we can look for a solution. But you did contribute, so that does make me feel that maybe you're interested in the subject. You know, where does creativity come from? I think the reply to this was me. Yeah. Yeah, for a start, if you're not into creativity or you're quite fine as you are, then there's no problem. So there's no need to worry about it. But if you're either not as creative as you'd like to be, and you'd like to be more free-flowingly creative, make it easier on a more regular basis, then that might be interesting for you. Or you're just interested in the subject. Where the hell do ideas come from? That could be a reason for being interested in the topic. And I don't know where ideas come from. But there do seem to be certain things or attitudes which help even more ideas come. And as I just said, exposing yourself to other stuff. If you're of a curious mind and you like learning new stuff, then I think automatically that will give you ideas. Unless you're an absorber. I was talking to an absorber the other day. Literally, this is someone who literally hasn't got much desire to create anything at all, but loves absorbing other people's creations. And I have to fight to be not too extreme the other way, you know, just to create stuff all the time. I need to get input as well. To be honest, I have a lot of input from all the sources that I said earlier. Anything that comes in will give me ideas. But I'm definitely trying to move more towards the creative side. That contradicted what I just said. But I am aware that most of my ideas come from at least some input, unexpected input that has come from outside that I wasn't expecting. Bam, and a new idea comes. So there's nothing much to labour there, I think, you know, because if you don't have a problem with it, then you're not. When you say, I don't understand how I can be more creative when it just comes out of nowhere, it doesn't sound like that worries you much. And you are a creative person, Sharon, because I see you creating stuff all the time. So maybe it's more philosophical than worrying about anything there. Right, let me chug down somewhere. I think that's me now. Today's writing, trying to keep some limitations with words and play with them. This is 4 hours ago, it says. Had a rough morning, and this is what came out. Okay, let's do it. No, actually, I'll go back to that because we had one from you. I'll do something else, then I'll come back to that. And it's you again. Right, so here is an example of an article where, yeah, I think it would be great if we put a little bit of the article in the thing so that we can talk about it and comment on it and maybe give us a question or a bit of background. That's the best thing, so that it sort of stays in the group. And then we can go off to see what it's about. So I will do that. Here's to friends. So this is 𝗫𝗏𝗪heart.org, which is Despina's lovely little, well, fairyland by the looks of it. Fairyland, fairy thoughts, fairy pictures. How sweet. And it's a nice piece about friends. Been friends for 25 years. As friends we shared our griefs, helped each other stand when one was down, shared our happiness, created moments together, held space for each other when we needed it, had little fights, medium fights, huge fights, and put our egos first, forgave each other, were lucky to have each other, listened to each other's music, even though we didn't like it, dragged each other to places we needed to stretch himself out of his comfort zone, travelled together, planned together, slept on dirty French trains together, how about that, made our dreams come true, drank together, took photos together, learned from each other's mistakes, inspired each other, made each other laugh, blah 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 for no reason, learned how to speak with our eyes, and still counting days into our friendship. Thank you. This is a great example of write however you want to write. You don't have to have full stops, you don't have to have capital letters at the beginning of lines. You can just throw loads of stuff out. You can use the same word at the end of each line if you want. All sorts of stuff. That's good, you know, because we often think that we're supposed to do things a certain way. You know, a real essay looks like this. A real poem looks like this. A real article looks like this. You don't have to follow any of that. You do whatever you like. And when you do whatever you like, not only will it be more you, more authentically you, but you'll be exploring. You'll be saying, that was good. I like that structure. I think I might do that again. Whereas me, I think I often get stuck into a very traditional sort of poetic rhyming scheme. And I look at them and I think, well, you know, I like it because I wrote it, but honestly, couldn't you have been a bit more inventive? So these are thoughts that go through my mind sometimes. Thomas, hello, Thomas. Hello, can ideas come from themselves, or only as a response to some other input from experience? Very interesting question. So this is quite intellectual, you know. One part of me, when I'm talking about all this stuff that I love and the ins and outs and the intricacies, and in the end, sometimes I just remember, I think, doesn't matter. Has no importance whatsoever. So in discussing it, it's because it's fun to discuss it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to discuss it or that we have to understand it. If you sit down and an idea comes to you, you sit down, you write something, you don't have to analyze where the idea came from and how can I have another idea like that. The writing is the event, and it came from somewhere. It got channeled through us. We put it down in a certain form and we got it out there. End of story. Move on. So only worry about stuff like this if you find it interesting, because otherwise you could be creating another new thing. So anyway, having said that, can ideas come from themselves or only as a response to some other input or some experience? You know, you're I don't know any better than you do. You tell me, where do you think they come from? You have any ideas? For me, I don't know where they come from. They come from the big ideas pond in the sky. But how to make them come? I don't think you can do that either, actually. I just know from experience, they often come. And we don't know when they'll come. I think it's more important to not lose them once they've arrived. To welcome them. Welcome them by focusing on them. As soon as you realise you're having an idea, focus on it and write it down. Or go and do the thing straight away that it gave you the idea for. Because so many ideas, even every day, disappear because I didn't note them down. I can't remember them all. And because they come fleetingly, they're very gentle. They're like a fairy's dance, a brush of a fairy's wings on your cheek, Despina. And before you know it, they're gone and something else has distracted you, and they've gone forever. Probably, or in most cases, they'll have gone forever, unless you think that's really good, I'm just going to write it down. So I think much more important than, I'm not saying you're worrying, I'm not saying I'm worrying, but much more important than worrying about where they may or may not come from, or how we can have more great ideas. Much more important, I think, is not to lose the ones that come. It's like that image of standing by a door, standing by the ideas door or the ideas window, knowing that at some point they'll come, being ready. It's like you're walking in the street. Have you got your camera in your hand? Is it charged? Are you ready for the photograph that will present itself, that you have no idea what it'll be? Or in your pocket, but at least you've got your camera with you. It's like that with ideas, but it's more subtle. As you're going through because you're not just going to stand there in the middle of a room doing nothing, waiting for an idea. Whereas if you're walking through the streets, you could wait for an interesting image. But with ideas, it's more subtle. They're more fleeting because you're normally doing other things. That's why ideas come, because you're doing other things. It might be the other thing that gives you the idea, or it might be the fact that you're not concentrating on anything in particular. You're doing a standard random thing that needs no thought whatsoever, such as washing the plates. And then in that case, your brain says, not much to do here. I think I'll have an idea. The idea will come. You're washing the plates. If you're not careful, you won't stop washing the plates to note down at least 2 or 3 words of the idea, because you're washing the plates. You'll finish washing the plates and you'll have this vague feeling that a good idea came to you, but you can't remember what it is. It's gone. Gone with the dirt, down the drain. So there, that was my just spontaneous comment on where ideas come from. I get the feeling that if you expose yourself to lots of interesting stuff, more ideas come. Because an idea for me seems to be a combination of what I've already lived and what I'm currently living. So it's my old stuff, my memories, my experience, my knowledge, with the new things that happen. The new things come along, interact with what's already part of me, and a new thing happens, a new thing comes out, which is wonderful, really great. I love that. It's my greatest joy. One of my greatest joys is producing something that hasn't been produced before. Of course it came from other things. I really want to do an article on this metaphor of the creative potential as a clock which has wound down or its battery is dead. It won't be my idea. No, I just read the thing. I'm really disappointed. I didn't have that idea. But I will try and incorporate it into an article which is not just basically the same words. I'll try to do my own original article with other ideas, with other stuff, me playing with my own words, and I'll incorporate that. Dorothy says, sometimes ideas are sent to many people, moving in the morphic field. Well, not being able to say where ideas come from, I also can't say where they go. So anything is possible. 2 people could have the same idea at the same time. It could seem like coincidence. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe coincidence is a thing. Maybe not coincidence is a thing. I have no idea. Personally, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. Because I don't know, I don't spend too much time on it these days. I just end up saying, well, what is. It is what it is. An idea came to me. If an idea came to you at the same time, that's funny. But I'm not going to think that it's part of a magical universe, because, it's kind of random. And also, there's a hell of a lot of things that don't happen at the same time, but we don't notice those. So it's kind of cute to notice 2 things happening, similar things happening at the same time, and say, oh my God. But, we could also have noticed all the things that aren't similar that happened at the same time. and say, "Oh my God, did you notice that that dog barked at the same time as that person over there across the road and that light changed? Oh my God!" You know, no coincidence. I mean, you know. Anyway, I find it amusing. I find humans amusing. I find what we invent amusing. I find what we like imagining amusing. I'm not, you know, life is just funny. Everything is, you know, interesting about life. If we want to see coincidences, we can see coincidences. If that's fun. And if you think there are coincidences, then there are. And if you think there aren't, then there aren't. I think that's about all there is to it. Dorothy says, when the mind works with something, your soul connects, or another state of consciousness appears. Yeah, you know, I don't know anything, really. I don't know anything about this. I have, you know, my opinions and stuff, but in the end, I realise fundamentally I don't really know much or anything. So whatever is, you know, like yesterday, it seems I wrote a poem the other day. Seems I did. Don't know where it came from. Don't know what it took for it to come out. You know, it took my heart beating. I didn't do that, did I? I didn't sort of say, heart, remember to beat. I didn't say, lungs, remember to breathe oxygen in and transform it into a form which means I don't die. I didn't do that. So I don't know anything. So all I say is that I don't claim things which I don't have any evidence for. But I'm not saying that weird, strange things don't exist. I'm just saying whatever is. Otherwise, you start believing things and telling other people that that's the way it is, and you know, I'm not sure that's a good route to go down. I like it. You know, this happened today. Oh, that's interesting. I wrote this today. Oh, and we can believe that if we want to. We can believe that Despina wrote a thing called Friend on November the 30th, 2020. We can believe that if we want to, can't we? It's our right to believe that. And let me read you another couple of mine while we're here. Where was I? This one. This one, I don't know if this is worth reading. From replacing Queen... You know, I wanted to say something to you for the future as well. I need to know to what extent I should just read and appreciate your stuff, and to what extent I should give you my constructive comments on it in terms of writing. You know, because I'm not going to start analysing someone's stuff as though they submitted it for an exam, if that's the last thing they want. But having said that, maybe some of you would like my opinion on the writing style, vocabulary, you know, that sort of stuff. So you need to tell me. So I'm going to try and make it quite clear. If what sort of comments you want, just appreciative comments, or do you want constructive comments on a particular aspect of the writing? And I know quite a lot of people who English isn't their first language. So it could purely be about English, or it could be about, you know, style or stuff like that. I mean, it's not going to turn into a grammar lesson, but... And also I want to have different slots, like slots from books like this, you know, crazy English, Eats, Shoots and Leaves. I talked about that last week. I'd love to do some stuff on that. I'm in the process of thinking about starting a new website, which is going to carry on the theme. It's called Hodgepodge English, the craziness of the English language, which will be really fun. So I'll have a bit of that in here each week, you know, a whole mixture of stuff. Despina says, yes, coincidences are there if we see them. You see, you've put an if in there already. We choose to see them. We choose not to see them. It's fun to notice all of what is around. Yeah. You know, I used to really not really be into the sort of woo-woo stuff, and now I think it's all just part of life, you know, realising that a lot of stuff that I do is pretty woo-woo as well. I just bought this ring today on the internet. Whether it's going to turn up or not, I don't know. It's a ring that you actually... looks like a ring, but you go like this, you play with it, and it turns into one of those sort of spheres, the old representation of the solar system. How cool is that? And it's got the zodiac signs on it, and it's got funky weird words on about love, life and stuff, and I paid money for 2 of these things. I mean, that's woo woo. I love it. Look, I've got this. You can focus if you want. Camera. How cool is that? I mean, how cool is that? And it's sort of stone metal thing. I don't know what it is. It's so weird, and I absolutely love it. So, you know, I think loving stones is woo-woo. So never get upset if I call something woo-woo, because I love stones. Having said that, I'm not going to, you know, tell people that if you wear this, your sort of, you know, third chakra is going to get realigned. And but, you know, we live in one of our main ways of appreciating the universe is through seeing stuff. And one of the main aspects of seeing stuff is seeing colour. And I love colour. There's no logic to loving colour. What do I love it, or do I just, I don't know. What does the word love mean? Anyway, that's all stuff for another thing. There you go. I absolutely love this weird thing. I have no idea what it is, and that's all there is to it. Definitely constructive comments for me. Well, okay, great. You know, I have to first and foremost, when I was teaching English for many years, I in French I don't know how to say this. I first and foremost appreciated the effort that the person had made and the deep meaning of what they were trying to express. The classic example of that is the English teacher who would say that the student is visibly upset in the lesson, and they're trying to say in English something along the lines of visibly upset, right? My cat died this morning. My cat died this morning. And the English teacher jumped straight in. How many times have I told you this, Katrina? My cat died this morning. Not die, died. It's the past. Your cat is gone. Repeat with me. My cat died. My cat died. My cat. You know. So funny but not funny. The sensitivity, what the person is trying to express, is definitely more above. In this context of this show, is more interesting than any little grammar mistakes and stuff. Having said that, I love the English language. I love language. It's just nuts. It's wonderful. It's crazy. And so I absolutely can. I had another story, but it's gone. So this is what I came up with. I'll just stop sharing the screen. That was clever. So this is what I came up with for this picture, which on the face of it seems rather, well, I mean, I like it, of course, but, you know, it's not too radical. The building is round, though, which is interesting. And this is what I thought this is what I said about this. What I was going to say this minute is you should give me an idea of what aspect of constructive comments you like. You know, what would you like me to focus on? From replacing Queen Catherine de Medicis' fancy townhouse, complete with woo-woo, you see it's my favourite word at the moment, with woo-woo imbued stargazing tower, through an early corn exchange to the present-day Chamber of Commerce, the site of this imposing round edifice in the heart of Les Halles has history stamped all over it. Catherine de Medicis was seriously into magic, and she thought that by building this tower and going up to the top with her chief magic advisor, chief wizard, she would sort of see things in the stars and the zodiac and things. So that was a very interesting period of history, because at that time, you know, if you think a lot of people are into this sort of stuff now, well, go back a few centuries, and even more so then. And there's even people like me who buy rings which turn into old sort of solar system representations. The intriguing 16th century colonne Médicis, this is the Médicis column that the Queen had built, will no doubt be the subject of a future When Lady Eiffel Smiles. But for now, let's just be deeply grateful. And you can see what I think about being grateful in another When Lady Eiffel Smiles, for the fact that it's still with us, having survived the demolition of the Hôtel de la Reine, which is the Queen's house. Talking of things not actually in the photo, because the column isn't in this photo, this is near my absolutely favourite flamboyantly Gothic tower of all time. The Tour Saint-Jacques was once part of the Saint-Jacques de la Boucherie church, which is Saint John of the Butchers. Practically everyone's got a saint here, even prostitutes. And butchers have Saint Jack. But now stands spectacularly alone in the eponymous square de la Tour Saint-Jacques. There's an absolutely gorgeous Gothic tower, which used to be attached to a church, and it ain't anymore. You see, life doesn't always... saints could get magically conjured up by the church in seemingly not so much of a coincidence as to how much money a certain trade offered to the church. So I think at some point the butchers said, be kind of nice to have a saint, wouldn't it? So they sort of funded the church a bit, and hey presto, we've just found a saint of butchers. Isn't that cool? You see, life doesn't always have to be complicated. Just don't try to fit a square tower into a round hole. That's complicated. So that was me on that one. And what else? What else have we got here? This one is weird. Look at this photograph here. Check that out, huh? And make of it what you will. This is a rather long text. I don't know if I'll read it. This is what I'm looking at. You can always freeze the screen and read it later if you like. Yeah. So check that out if you'd like to read that. This is another poem. Can you believe it? Looking at a leaf. How simple can a leaf be? And this leaf, because it's in the shape of a hand, it made me feel like it was nature reaching out to us, reaching out to stupid man who thinks that he is now above and beyond nature, like giving us a last chance. And the way I thought it was like a hand as well, not only does this tree, sort of maple type tree, or a plate, I don't know, the leaves look like a hand with the fingers, but it also has the veins. It has, you can see that it's aged. It's on its way out. It's like an old person's hand. And that made me think of this, ingrained. And I was trying to be simple, I think. You shouldn't explain poems, but I think I was trying to be simple for once. Nature knows, her wisdom lies heart deep, relies on heavy boughs, weathered veins reach out to us. A leafy palm, an olive branch, a helping hand, rich with age, a chance to heal, offered in vain. Man doesn't. I'll read it again, because the first time I read it, I've forgotten the rhythm. And so, ingrained. I was going to call it Nature Knows, and then carry on with Nature Knows. So, Nature Knows. Nature knows, da-da-da-da. Then I thought, no, it's an opportunity to be more creative. You've got a word there. It doesn't have to be taken from the poem. So use it. You find something new. Ingrained, I found, which I like. Because ingrained is it's a rich word, It can be literal or it can be metaphorical. Ingrained, it can be something like a colour or a pattern has been ingrained on a piece of wood, for example. It's been sort of pushed into it and it can't be taken out, or something like that. Or ingrained, like in the grain. Or it can mean that it's a characteristic of someone that it's really difficult for them to change that characteristic and be different. So nature knows, her wisdom lies heart deep, relies on heavy boughs. I keep wanting to explain things in case you haven't seen just quite how brilliant it is, Basically, there's a few puns. There's a few words which can have double meaning. Boughs, or the boughs of the... Anyway. Weathered veins. Veins on the leaf and veins on our hands as well. I do like this image. Weathered veins reach out to us. A leafy palm, an olive branch. Now, this is nice because a leafy palm... A palm could be a palm tree. And an olive branch is obviously part of a tree. But it's also... You offer someone an olive branch if you offer them a chance for peace, something like that. So I did like this sort of playing around with these images. A helping hand, the palm of the hand, rich with age, a chance to heal, offered in vain, which is repeating the sound vein, but not the same meaning from above. Man doesn't. Man doesn't what? Well, man doesn't know, does he? Man doesn't know that he's still part of nature. He thinks he's a part. He thinks that we can exploit nature, chop down the forests because we want a nice coffee table. Just go with whatever you want to comment. You might be inspired. Oh, you might be inspired. Moi? Inspired? Seriously? I don't want to limit you. I like that. I like that, Despina. I really appreciate that. Because otherwise it would be a bit like a school lesson, you know. Today we're going to cover grammar, you know. Next week it'll be spelling. You know. I like that you say that. Having said that, I have to be very careful because I don't want to... It's not a grammar lesson, you know. Adults amongst adults, sometimes you have to have the right relationship before you can very gently offer, you know. It's a bit like coaching on decisions, you know. People make a decision, well, they made the decision, and for them it may be the right one, so it's not for us to say. So anyway, I mean, you know, maybe I should do a bit of both and people will get used to it. I'll appreciate what I like about it for its, you know, like aesthetic qualities and its meaning, what you're trying to convey, and then I'll give you some tips on the language. Maybe I should do that because, you know, after all, it's kind of, words are a huge part of my life. So I guess I shouldn't be ashamed of that. I shouldn't hide that, because that's another thing that I could really offer. I think a lot of value in doing that. So maybe I should say that explicitly, you know. I'll look at your stuff and I will both appreciate it and say what I love and give you some ideas for other things that you could do, or possibly, you know, let you know that ain't English. English is so funny though. You know, one of the funniest... Oh, Dorothy says beautiful. Thank you, Dorothy. Some of the biggest grammar Nazis are foreign English teachers. A grammar Nazi is someone who will delight in pointing out a grammar mistake as they see it, as opposed to having any interest whatsoever in what you've written. You know, you get a comma in the wrong place, according to them, bam, they're on you. You use a word either misspelt or a preposition is in the wrong place, or it's the wrong preposition, you know, they're in there. There are some people, they delight in this. This is their great joy. For me, it's a bit like photographers who are far more interested in what the top resolution of your camera is than any photographs you've taken with it. And the funny, but as I was saying, I'll finish with this. This will be my last thing, probably. Famous last words, which I've said before. Foreign English teachers are often the biggest grammar Nazis, because what you guys have done, you've learnt English as a second language, and you're damn good at it. But you still learnt it as a second language, which might mean you learnt the rules first, and then, or at the same time as learning to speak it. And then you go and teach it, and you do a great job. But you're not a grammar Nazi, you're a sweater Nazi. Well, yeah, we'll see about that. I might have a surprise up my sleeve at some point. I was going to put it on a crazy t-shirt, but it's winter here, so I'm not going to do that yet. Yeah, so what happens is they go, foreign English teachers, I can only speak for that because I can't speak for others. So, you know, it's not a racist or a thing or anything. It's just that's what I'm speaking from. They'll go and they'll study. They'll devote a huge part of their studious life to studying English and the rules of grammar. Then they come out and they know their rules of grammar. And then they will be teaching them in school. So it's like gospel. You know, it's the truth. I have the truth. I found the truth. Hallelujah. Come to me. I will give you the true word of English grammar. And then they'll have a conversation with English people, or even an English teacher. And sometimes they get rather perturbed and sometimes upset because the English teacher or the English person isn't using proper English grammar. What's going on? Oh my God. Are they an idiot? Are they, don't they know that you don't use that? And the funny thing is a native English speaker capable of using incorrect grammar or wrong words? I mean, is it possible? Because if they're a native English speaker, then their English by definition is English. That is English. It's not for someone else to say that it isn't. And it's amusing, it's funny because it makes us think, hang on a second, what came first, the language as we use it or the grammar? Well, it was the way we invented the language to speak and communicate. Then at some point we wrote dictionaries. We wrote down the words we were already using and tried to say what they meant. And grammar is the same. At some point we decided to try and write down the rules of the language we were already speaking perfectly well without grammar books. But if you come to English through the grammar books first, you can be quite perturbed when you hear people not at all speaking like in the grammar books. You don't speak like grammar books at all. You're not a real English person, are you? Oh, you are. That must be why. So, there's descriptive grammar and there's prescriptive grammar. I can hardly say it. And prescriptive grammar, it's like the Académie Française, to make a sweeping statement. They actually tell you what good French is. And either you speak it like they say you should, you're speaking good French. If you don't, then you're not. But there's in English, we're a little bit better in terms of descriptive grammars, where we do genuinely try to, there are rule books, sure, there are rules, but we also make, concessions to pretty quickly, grammar books or dictionaries will say, but some people say this. Because the thing is, the grammar books and the dictionaries came from what people say. So if people start using grammar people start using grammar different, like think different, the famous Apple advert with mind-blowingly bad grammar, which if more than 50% of the population say think different instead of think differently, you've got to say, sorry, rip up the grammar book and rewrite it. Because, first there are humans, then there are the language, then there's the language they speak, then there's the books that try to describe what they speak. So that's fun. That's part of the fun bit of English, which I will will be part of Hodgepodge English when it finally comes along. So you can be a beautiful grammar Nazi. You're not a grammar Nazi, you're a sweater Nazi, and that's fine. Right, so I'm going to kind of end there. I've got one more, I'll hit you with this one. And I didn't do the first one, did I? This is today's, this will be the end. Oh, I didn't look at Ashley's thing. Oh my God. I'll go quickly back to it and just make a quick comment on it. And then I will call it a day. I'm not going to read through it all. It's because I didn't have time to read it and appreciate it properly. So Ashley is from Turkey and she writes stories, and I'm dying to get to know her stories a little bit. She says this, she contributed this, and I've got a feeling, this got a few comments, and I've got a feeling this is going to kickstart the group. We're going to really get going now. This is the cover of my debut novel from 6 years ago, the first book I've written after finally having the courage to quit my corporate job. This book itself is a tale of my life on its own, besides the tale that's written inside it. Every creation is a mirror of its creator, ultimately. Yeah, that's why you should write from your heart. Write what's true to you. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to copy someone else's style. Write from you, because that is ultimately what the reader wants. Okay, I don't know if it's true in like novels or something, but I kind of guess it is. I wrote a children's story, 1 or 2 children's stories. It was totally me. It was my stuff. I didn't publish it or anything, but I had to write from me. I couldn't write from another place. Maybe I parodied other styles, but it had to be me. Otherwise, it wasn't anything. This is about finding your voice. This is about, or letting your voice find you. This is the heart of the future creative writing masterclass, which will be coming next year. Finding your voice. And it's like in photography, finding your eye or letting it find you. So let me just read the first bit of this, and then, this is her story about her. It's not the story. So I'll just read the first little bit, and then we can read all of it in the group later. My story goes like this. On a fall day, Americanism, on a fall day in 2014, I quit everything. My corporate job that I hated, my career, therapy, all the pills. All together on the same day with one purpose. To understand what this life was about, because I had lost all meaning and I was suffocating. And I had this wild dream of writing a book, since decades. So I sat down to write a fiction novel, planning to write for adults. After writing the first 4 to 5 pages, I realised I was writing a children's novel. That was a shock. I never had that thought. Then as a second shock, I realised I was writing with a voice that was completely different from the short stories I've written until that day. Also, I was writing with a style and writing in a genre completely different from, I'll read to the end of there, completely different from anything I've ever written until that day. Nothing was planned. I just witnessed myself putting it on paper. It appeared that I've written a magical tale with a larger-than-life setting, with a visionary tone, with kind of a poetic language, a narration with touches of philosophical and mystical wisdom. A new voice came out from within. The book got published. It is still out there with many editions included in the school curriculums nationwide, etc. So we don't have time to look at all of that, but isn't that a lovely introduction to this story? So it's in the group, Creative Blog and Article Writing Group. Go and read it all. Please comment on that and let's get some stuff going. Despina's going. Good night. And good night to you, Despina, and I'll finish with this. And it's a picture of this little guy running around. And again, I sat down, had no idea what I was going to write until I had an idea what I was going to write. And it was the photo that did it and whatever else was chugging around in my brain. And this is what I wrote. I used to run, used to entertain that competitive spirit where winning and personal glory seemed like it was a good thing and actually meant something. Now, I'm not so sure. I got pretty disillusioned pretty quickly with the idea of big business and big bucks when I was headed there at the ripe old age of 21. Then it was more about wondering what would be cool if it wasn't just comparing designer labels and killer mortgage deals. These days, all I want to do is share originality and inspire the same in others. I still run sometimes, but I know I've already won. And that is the end of my little story for show for this evening. Thanks a lot for having you with me. That doesn't make sense at all. I'm tired. And it'll be more of the same time, next place. I'm losing everything. Same time, same place, next week for more wordplay. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of my creative universe and for letting me be part of yours. Bye for now.